Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm back. I'm Debbie Georgiani along with Jerry Usher. I spent a very quick 3 days in the great state of North Carolina with my very, 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 very best childhood friend from New Jersey, Kristen, and we just had a blast. It was very, very relaxing and got to see some folks in North Carolina. Beautiful weather, but came home late last night, so that's why there's a little bit of a scratchiness in my throat. I was teasing with Jerry that, Jerry, I think I was breathing a little too much recycled air on the plane, but it's all good.
Well, what I want to know is how can a quick 3-day trip from the West Coast to the East Coast be relaxing?
I know. What was I thinking? Jerry, we need to go back to that Invincible show. I think I thought I was invincible or something.
There you go.
It's catching up to me. But today, dear friends, this is going to be an exciting show. We're talking about body language today. Okay, this is really important, and it does relate to our spirituality because body language speaks volumes. In fact, 60% of the nonverbal communication that you are emitting, it makes up 60% of your interpersonal relationship communication. So think about that for a minute. You're emitting your body language. You're not even thinking that you're transmitting cues to your relationships, but 60% of it makes up your interpersonal communication. I hope I said that correctly. I think I might be a little tired. But actually, body language means a lot. It really does. So when you have your arms crossed in front of you, it says something. When you have your hands outstretched, it says something. When you're making eye contact, it says something. When you're shaking your head, or even when you're crying, or you're crying through laughter, it says something. So body language is important, and it does relate to our spirituality, and that's what we're talking about today on Take Two.
Yeah, you can call and share what you think about this and what any experiences are that you might have had with body language and just maybe determining kind of where a person was and without them even saying a word. The number's 1-800-585-9396. 1-800-585-9396. Debbie, I think there's probably no place where this is more, I guess, or easier, I should say, to kind of make out than in a marital relationship. You know, if one spouse or the other is in a particular mood or thinking something or whatever, and they just aren't in the mood to talk about it, or, you know, maybe there's something going on, I would have to think, I'm not married, but I would have to think a spouse would know almost immediately, honey, is there something wrong?
Oh,
is that the case in marriage?
Absolutely. When you're encountering your spouse and you want to bring up a discussion, especially if it's something that can get kind of heated, maybe around finances or something like that, and one of the spouses crosses their arms, you know, you immediately know this conversation is not going to really go anywhere. It's because they're in the defensive mode, they don't want to talk about it or whatever. And so saying that at the beginning of the show, Jerry, that nonverbal communication makes up 60% of the meaning behind your interpersonal relationships. Well then, what does that say? We're called to really respond not only in our words, but in our body language, in our actions, in order to connect properly, especially in a marital relationship where we are to grow in holiness. And so, yeah, Jerry, I totally agree with you. I think we could get a lot of spouses calling in saying, yep, I've talked to my wife or husband, and yeah, they had that look where they just kind of sat back and crossed their arms, crossed their legs, and I knew this conversation wasn't going to go anywhere. If that's you, let's talk about that, because as Catholic Christians, we're called to be Christ in the world at all times, and our body language reflects that, especially when people are seeking the faith. I mean, how would a person feel if they are thinking about coming into the Christian faith, especially Catholicism, and they encounter us, and we have kind of a closed off stance, or we're not making eye contact, or we seem disingenuous? You can tell, Jerry, body language is a really big thing for me. 1-800-585-9396. If you've ever thought about that and you're kind of interested in it as well, you want to talk about it, now's the time to do it.
It's Take Two with Jerry and Debbie on EWTN Radio. Yeah, absolutely. Your body language can say so much about you, and really it can also, I think it can elicit help maybe some support, some care, some concern from other people. You could be absolutely overwhelmed. Stressful day at work. You get home, the kids are all running around and driving you crazy, and maybe you've got to run over to your neighbor's house to pick something up. One look at you, and your neighbor could say, "Wow, is everything okay?"
Exactly.
Or it can tell as you meet people, whether you like one another or not. And Debbie, I find that there's so much nonverbal communication in the world today. Simply, you mentioned eye contact. I think it's just so prevalent today. I mean, there was a time when human beings would all speak to each other. We all, I don't know what it is today. I'd love to have somebody share what it is about, what we say with our eyes. As we're walking, even down the grocery store aisle, and we pass someone who's going the other way with their basket, and we're going the opposite way, and it's almost like eyes just shoot, they dart away from each other nowadays. So, I mean, there's so many different angles we can take on this, but dear friends, you're the ones who drive it at 1-800-585-9396.
So if you're feeling the promptings of the Holy Spirit to call in and share your wisdom, or you want to ask questions, or you want to just contribute to the conversation, please call in. This is your show. You drive the show. Jerry and I are here for the ride. We're here to learn as well. We grow together, and after this brief hour, hopefully we walk away a little bit changed, a little bit closer to God. 1-800-585-9396. Jerry, you were talking about relationships, and it's interesting because when you look at body language in relationships, I mean, clearly when you see a husband and wife together, there's they're close. Their physical closeness is very much a sign of their connection, their intimacy. And so you'll see husbands and wives holding hands, or shoulder to shoulder walking along, or when they're talking to one another, they are in each other's, if you want to call it, in each other's space. Okay, so you can tell when relationships transition into that real closeness of a bond. And so it's very, very important. I just want to go back to this again one more time, the 60% number, Jerry, about the nonverbal communication, because if in fact that's true, which I believe it is, that's what the stats say, okay, that the nonverbal communication makes up 60% of our interpersonal communication. If we're reading the cues inaccurately, Jerry, or we're reading them accurately, it plays a big part in how we grow as people, how we grow as Christians. So I think there's a real responsibility on our part, Jerry. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, as Christians, that we should be mindful of our own body language, because we are sending out signals to others that they may say to themselves, "Wow, I don't want to be like that person. I mean, they say they're Catholic, and look at them. They look horrible." They're emitting these horrible nonverbal cues. But I think I think we need to kind of realize that our body language says a lot in how we develop relationships. What do you think about that?
I agree completely. And I think another area, too, here that really just came to my mind, when you can really say a lot without saying a word, is when we are not telling the truth. And for example, I'd love to have any parents call in. You know how kids, they'll do something wrong, Debbie, and immediately, what do? They look over at mom or dad like, their eyes dart over there like,
right.
Were they watching? And then you can ask the kids, hey, who did this? Did you do this? And all of a sudden there's this fidgeting going on. And this happens with adults too. I think it's really amazing how we think sometimes we're hiding so much, and yet it could be the fact that we're shouting out something that we think nobody knows, And I think when we're lying or not telling the truth about something is really one of those situations.
Hence the reason why we called the show that we said that the show is Body Language Speaks Volumes. It does. So please call in. Share your take on this. This is important. 1-800-585-9396. This is your show, Take Two, with Jerry and Debbie.
It's the start of a new day for Morning Catholic Radio.
Monday mornings sometimes make me say, Lord, have mercy, give me the strength. And so let's remember that after every Good Friday is the Easter Sunday. And guess what? After every Monday is going to be another Sunday.
To quote St. Paul from Philippians, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice.
Iterum dico vobis.
Morning Glory, Catholic from the start. Weekday mornings, 7 Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Christ is the answer, with Father John Riccardo.
John, chapter 8, verse 51. Jesus is in a discussion with some of the leaders of the Jews. They're talking about Abraham. Abraham lived 1,500 years before the time of Jesus. So in the course of the discussion, Jesus says, truly, truly, I say to you, if anyone keeps my word, he will never see death. He says that often in the Gospels. He who keeps my word or believes in me will never die. To which the Jews say, now we know you have a demon. And they say, Abraham died, as did the prophets. All the patriarchs, the great men and women of the history of Israel. All these people died, and you say, if anyone keeps my word, he will never taste death? Are you greater than our father Abraham, who died? And the prophets who died? And Jesus says, your father Abraham rejoiced that he was to see my day. He saw it and was glad. To which the Jews say, you are not yet 50 years old, and you've seen Abraham? And Jesus answers, truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am.
On fire for EWTN? Get Amazon Fire TV. All you need is a high-speed internet connection, a TV, and the Amazon Fire TV player. Never miss any of your favorite EWTN television or radio programs again.
This is Father Joseph Mary.
This is Dr. Ray Guarendi, host of The Doctor Is In.
Hello, this is Bishop Mike Siss from the Diocese of San Angelo, Texas. Thank you for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
To your phone calls here in a moment. 1-800-585-9396. Do you find yourself, are you good? Are you adept at reading people's body language? Are you conscious of your own when you're sitting in a meeting, maybe a job interview or something? And I think it's just natural to be a little bit nervous, fidgety, whatever. But in all kinds of life situations, we say a lot by not saying any words, but with nonverbal communication. So share your take on this at 1-800-585-9396. I in my research for this, Debbie, I found an interesting article online. And it lists eight cues that you can watch for. You mentioned crossed arms or crossed legs can be a resistance to somebody else's ideas. Here's one. It says real smiles crinkle the eyes. So when it comes to it, when you're really truly smiling,
you got to squint.
yeah, your face is going to look different than when you're fake smiling. Some of the other ones, posture, of course, it gets into eyes that lie, which I mentioned a minute ago. Raised eyebrows, it talks about raised eyebrows.
What does that raised eyebrows mean?
It says it signals discomfort, some kind of surprise, worry, or fear. But here's one that I have found myself doing a lot. Exaggerated nodding signals anxiety about approval. If someone's explaining something to you and you're just kind of nodding, your head is just bobbing nonstop.
Yeah. What does that mean? What does that mean you're trying to do?
It says that it signals anxiety about approval, and then it talks about clenched jaw and other stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, so Matt Gabinski actually has a degree in communication, and he corrected me slightly. It's actually 56% is nonverbal, 37% is tone, and only 7% is actual words you use. Wow.
Way to go, Matt.
Yeah, Matt, you're pretty cool. You got all the stats. But yeah, so that is really heavy. That changes it dramatically. I mean, we've got to worry. You're right, Jerry. We got to worry about the nonverbal, the posture, then our tone, our facial expressions, and then left is the 7% of words. Wow. Okay, so if you want to get in on this conversation, this is going to be a very active one, very engaging, and I think we're going to learn something. So don't just sit and be entertained. Jump in at 1-800-585-9396. Okay, RT, you are up first in South Carolina, listening on St. Paul Radio. Hi, RT. Welcome to Take Two.
Good afternoon. I want to be more positive with my wife. I want to show her how much I love her. I want to tell her. I want to give her every positive sign I can. But for some reason, I forgot how to do it. When I first met her and first started dating her, I gave her everything I could give. I told her I love her every minute, and I still do that. I try my best to do it every time I try to go back to her before I leave the house and give her a kiss, and I try my best to I hold her hand as we walk in place. I wait for her to get out of the car, and I walk with her and not behind her, in front of her. I let her go first. I hold the door for her, but some reason I lost it, and she doesn't think I'm ever going to get it back.
Okay, so RT, let me see if I hear this correctly. So your wife is not receiving your gestures of
Yes,
your loving
ma'am.
gestures? Okay.
You got it.
Okay, so I'm not a counselor, but I have been married, and I am married, and I've learned a lot, and I just want to say from my own experience, sometimes when there's underlying issues in the relationship or things are going on that are unresolved, that can somewhat stop the reception of those loving feelings that are coming even both ways. So you may want to see about that first to see if that's stopping it, like if there's any unresolved issues. The other thing that I had actually went to a seminar one time on relationships, on a marital relationships. It was a Christian seminar. It was fabulous, and he talked about how we've sometimes lost that feeling when we're in marriage, where when we see our spouse, we've seen them so many times, we're just very used to them. And he did this exercise where he said to us, when you see your spouse, look at them like, wow, they're right in front of me. You get this like unbelievable sense of, wow, they just entered the room. They're right in front of me. And at first when we did this exercise, RT, we thought it was kind of silly because he had us practicing it, and we would look at each other and go, wow, I'm looking at you for the first time. And I think in a way it's kind of this idea that we really stay in the moment and we really appreciate what we have right in front of us, because at any time that could end. We don't know when God is going to call us home. And so there's this sense of, wow, this person is right in front of me. And so maybe I just want to say that maybe some of that needs to be infused back into your relationship. I don't know if any of that is helping you, but I know Jerry wants to add to the conversation.
Well, RT, I wanted to hear what you had to say first.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I was just telling you, I'm still here.
What about what Debbie had to share there? Does any of that sound reasonable?
I think that would be great. We pray with each other first thing in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Right? When she goes and prays for 30 minutes, and then I'm getting ready, we pray the rosary. Mm-hmm. So we already connected with God first thing in the morning.
Beautiful.
And then everything's fine. And then what it is if I guess exactly what happened was acknowledgement. She would look over at me, and I forgot to. She said, "Why don't you look over and say hi or smile at me or whatever?" And that could be first thing.
Okay, so then it's back to that exercise I learned, that you've got to just have that wow sense that that person. Yep.
And I can see where things I could have done, a couple things, and that would work. I can see how. Probably, and I do tell her, before I leave the house, I do say I love her, and I give her a kiss, and I've been trying to call her whenever my job gets over, I call her, and or at least tell her, ask her how everything's going, if she's okay or whatever. So anyway,
but RT,
I can listen more.
Right, but RT, what you're doing, you're trying very much. And that's wonderful. And sometimes with spouses, people are more what's the word, more sensitive to the gestures of their spouse. So maybe it might just take something really small, like you having that connection with her, that eye contact connection, and that in the moment connection every once in a while. Maybe that's all it's going to take. It might be a lot simpler than you think. Sometimes we overthink it sometimes, but you're trying, and I think there's merit in that, and you're a beautiful soul for doing that, because there's a lot of spouses that just they don't have the time, or they don't care, and it's unfortunate. You're caring. So it's only going to get better, and we're going to pray around you too, so that it does. And if you do try that sense of staying in the moment with that wow feeling when you see your spouse, and maybe your spouse may not be receptive to it right away, but keep doing it and see what happens, see what unfolds when you really can experience each other with that real eye contact, connection, and real attention. So I don't know. I feel like your situation is really a good one, because you're very active. You're a very active spouse, and that's really important. So
thank you, RT, for the phone call. And we hope you'll keep listening to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're going to go to Rick as I first give out the phone number, 1-800-585-9396. Talking today about your body language. What does it say about you? Have you learned to kind of read people, not read their minds, but kind of read how they're feeling or what they're thinking by looking at the way they comport themselves, their posture, their facial expressions? We can all do that, especially as we've talked about in marriages, and definitely I'd love to hear from some parents about how you kind of look at your kids, and they marvel sometimes, Debbie. I think kids, when parents say something they know what a child's been up to, the kids go, how could you have known that? How did you know that? So it could be all very much nonverbal. 1-800-585-9396. Okay, Rick is in Rio Grande Valley, Texas, listening on iHeartRadio. Hi, Rick. Welcome to Take Two. How are you?
Doing just fine, thanks. Can you hear me?
Really well, Rick. Thanks for calling.
Excellent. I'm calling with a headset. I work in communications and advertising, and ironically, I want to speak with you about the headset. I want to add to this conversation. I've been deep in prayer all week, past 2 weeks, and this is something I struggle with on a daily basis, and it's the fact that I feel we don't communicate like we used to, and I feel I see that this is something I noticed back in, I want to say 2006, 2007, when the invention of the MP3 player came about, the iPod, the whatever you call it. But it was an MP3 player, and I first noticed it at my gym. We all used to communicate, and from one year to the next, we went from communicating to blocking ourselves out completely. And working in the communications field, well, before I worked in communications, it was waiting tables, bartending in college, and I was constantly communicating. I went to college in the Texas State, Austin area, San Marcos, Texas, Central Texas area, extremely liberal. I noticed it right after the invention of the MP3 player. And in today's society, I noticed it. I noticed people getting lost in text messages and staring at their phones and almost as if they're hypnotized by it. I'm blown away when people don't answer my phone calls after multiple attempts, but they'll respond with a text message. I find that baby boomers, my parents, are difficult to contact via direct cold call. I have to text them first. It's something I struggle with daily, and it's something I believe we need to pray for.
Oh, agreed. Couldn't agree more, Rick. Thank you for sharing your thoughts here, and we may have to hold you through a little pause here coming up in just a minute if you have the time. Stay with us on the line. But Debbie, I think he has pointed to something very, very important here, and really what it says to me, all of the people, and listen, I, like everybody else, I go out into the public, into places. For me, the big place is the gym. You go to the gym, everybody has their earbuds in, or they're looking at their gadget. I was sitting in the sauna the other day. This guy's watching a movie on his phone disturbing the rest of us, by the way. I go in there after a workout to kind of just relax and meditate. I actually say a rosary and some other stuff in there, but what this nonverbal communication, from people with earbuds in their ears says to me is, I don't want to talk to you. I think we have a bigger problem here, Debbie, that Rick is pointing out, and that is interpersonal communication in society really is becoming a lost reality, and that's really a tragedy, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Rick, you definitely hit a nerve, especially with me, because I'll tell you what, I think we have a real disconnect in society, and it flows into the family, it flows into relationships with our children, and it's widespread. And I personally believe, Rick, the only way we're going to change it is if we start with our immediate relationships that are around us, our sphere of friends and family. It's the only way we're gonna change it. Rick, if you can hold on, stay on with us. There's that beautiful music playing, but we have more calls coming in. That's a good sign. A lot of men today. Wow, good job, guys. That's awesome. We're talking about nonverbal communication, what your body language, how it speaks volumes on Take Two. When we come back, we're going right back to Rick to continue the conversation.
Living the Beatitudes with Father Bjorn.
Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. I Can't Get No Satisfaction is a popular song, but it could be a summary of our life on earth. In the book of Genesis, we hear that we're made in the image and likeness of God. That means that we can know the truth and we can choose to do good to others. We can love. It comes to fulfillment in the Sermon on the Mount, where we hear these Beatitudes. It's the standard of the Christian life. Jesus tells us that if we hear what he says and do what he tells us to do, we will be like wise people who build our house on solid rock. But we make progress towards happiness and blessedness by our actions, and it starts with our interior disposition, what we want to choose. Do you and I hunger and thirst for those things that will lead us to happiness and to God? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about your body language today, and we were just talking with Rick before the break. And Rick, I wanted to continue with you. So I really do think there's a disconnect in society, and it's filtering into our schools, our families, our situations in life, and it's very unfortunate. But to combat it, Rick, I believe that we got to start one-on-one with the people around us, those people that we can have those connections with to change that. I agree with you. When I go to the gym, nobody talks to one another. It's unbelievable. Why do we even spend the money to publicly exercise? Why not just exercise at home? Right. I don't get it. But you're absolutely right. The sense of community is really vanishing before our eyes. So what do you think, Rick? You were a bartender. I was as well in college. You learned a lot from people who came into restaurants. What do you think? What can we do?
Well, you remember that feeling where someone would approach you and you could just feel what they were going through? And whether you were waiting tables or bartending, and for me, it was mostly bartending, but you felt whether they were in a good mood. You could almost tell if it was their birthday. Right. You could, whether or not they had a sash on, or you could just tell they were celebrating something, or you could read their thoughts, their countenance, their whatever we call it. But, it's, this Sunday in Mass, to the right of me, someone was sending a text message before the gospel, and it ate me up, and it gave me the strength to call in today.
Well, I'm glad you did call in and you feel so comfortable with us, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to journey together. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, but we're trying to get closer to God. And how do we do it? We've got to have each other's support. And the way to do that is to communicate and to relate to one another. Well, if we have all these gadgets and these things that are separating us, how is it even possible that we overcome it? I mean, unless we make a conscious effort to do it. And we got to work at it, Rick. It's really tough in this day and age, but I think it's doable.
Right. If you don't mind me, I'm not sure if I answered your question, but
sure.
I've been in 2 accidents that I know have, been that I know have been caused from me looking down at the phone. Fortunately, I wasn't charged with anything, but I know there was an evil in it. And my job working in marketing and advertising, I always have to be on the phone, but I refuse to let that phone control me. I put it on, my phone goes to bed at 11 a.m. when I'm praying my rosary. My phone wakes up at 8 a.m. when I'm ready for it to wake up. And if a female, I'm a single man, by the way, if a female desires to have a relationship with me via text, then she's not the right person for me, because I can see the evil in this phone that we are all carrying, that we're all dependent on. And I feel the Spirit has convicted me of it, and I hope you guys feel the same way.
Well, Rick, yeah, you are definitely talking to people who are sympathetic with what you're saying, and we greatly appreciate your call and your thoughts on this. And Debbie, you kind of put the question out there, what do we do about it? I don't know. I've thought about this. Once the horse is out of the barn, as they say, with regard to technology and stuff. So I don't know. It's going to take maybe some kind of real awakening of our population. That's with regard to just the gadgets and the earbuds and all of that. And of course, we're talking about much more than that today. So, Rick, thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you, Rick.
Talking about body language. We, believe it or not, folks, we say literally, as Debbie pointed out statistically at the start of the show, we say more without words than we do with words. And so what's been your experience with that? How well do you kind of pick up on what people are thinking or going through or feeling at a certain time? 1-800-585-9396. Margaret is next. She is in New Hampshire listening on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Margaret. Welcome to the program.
Hi, I'm driving my car and I'm listening to you, and the thing that comes to me is like-mindedness. There was a time where you could sit down after Mass, having coffee, and you can talk to 5 people, and you can just talk and talk and talk, because you all have the same thing in your heart and in your mind, and you kind of just trust God, you trust what you know to be true. But now, I did a little experiment with myself. When do I use expression? Either if I'm passionate about something, or if I really know I just can't tell the truth to this person, so, I'll shrug my shoulders, I'll make a little funny face and say, well, that's okay, I'm going somewhere. You don't want to have conversations with people that you're not like-minded with. And those people, from my perspective, are so rare. And I've noticed how my husband and I would just keep drawing. We don't even watch television. I can listen to EWTN. Praise God, your guys are good company, okay? But there's just very little good company. My husband is good company. But people just are thinking they're right about so many things that really are wrong. And you get to a point where you just don't want to argue anymore. So just make a little gesture and leave. Or make a little gesture, make a little smile, and I'm done. Thank you very much. So that's my take on it. And that's my experience of it. I'm a very straightforward person. I'm a very passionate person. But I get to a point where it's just not worth talking to this person anymore. And I might, and they always want to talk to you. They always want to, well, what do you think? You make a little gesture and you back off because it's not worth it.
Right, Margaret. I think the main thing that what I'm hearing you say anyway is something I agree with very, very completely, and that is, and I think it goes back to, I don't know, when did the politically correct movement really start to wash over at least our country? It was in the 70s, definitely by the 80s.
Good point.
Political correctness, I think, has been the root cause of so many problems, and I think that it is my humble opinion. Somebody can disagree with me if they want. I think it has stifled verbal conversation in many ways, because I'll tell you, some of these similar environments that I go to, the gym, the sauna in the gym afterwards, used to be, you'd have these lively conversations about whatever's going on. Now, nobody wants to talk because you're afraid you're gonna say something to offend somebody, or they're gonna not like what you say. And so, Debbie, I think we've just resolved to, in many cases, just not even talking.
Right.
So
right.
I blame a lot of it on political correctness.
I totally agree with you. And Margaret, I was chuckling because I can relate to you what you were saying so much, because I have done exactly that, where I'll make a gesture like, and I'll walk away, because you're right. You don't want to engage because you know where it's going to end up. And that's really unfortunate that we can't all speak the truth and have an openness to the facts. And I think that's really sad. In fact, I was in a conversation a couple weeks ago with somebody who I love dearly, and he was just not open to the facts at all. He had his position, he had his stance, he was going to defend his position, and there was no way I was going to convince him with not even one fact. So, I've heard it said that you're never going to convince somebody who's really convicted on believing their own truth. You're not going to convince them of anything when they're, when they're convicted of believing their own lie, I should say. Forgive me. It's hard to convince somebody with the facts. And so, Margaret, again, I'm going to pose the question to you. What do we do about it? I mean, you said you have your husband as good company. You have EWTN as good company, and that's wonderful. But what do we do about it from a global perspective?
I know it's going to sound trite, but it shouldn't to all of us. And like for the month of May, I'm just asking the Mother of God to enlighten their conscience. And I just pray all the time and love. You love, okay, and a lot of times you zipper up your liver, you still love them, but there's no use in going into combat and really truly asking the Mother of God and the Holy Spirit to enlighten the conscience is the only thing I can think of. And then, of course, keep being the beacon that you are on EWTN. And whenever I can tell the truth, I do. But whenever I feel like walk away or just give them a little high sign, nice to see you, that kind of thing, that's what I do. Because we really can't, so why bother? I don't think bothering helps. I think bothering irritates you and me. If I bother to tell you you're wrong, you're going to be irritated, I'm going to be irritated because you're irritated, and you have to wait for the conscience to be ready. And I believe that's what God is doing in the world, is clearing consciences, bringing light into the conscience.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
The right people at the right time.
I agree with you. When in doubt, we always go to the Blessed Mother to help us. I agree with you 100%. So, Margaret, thank you so much. You sound like a beautiful soul who's open to great, truthful communication, because you're listening to EWTN. So that says a lot, and that's awesome. So thank you so much. Please pray for us. You said to continue to be the beacon of light. All of the programs on EWTN try that. That's their main goal. They try very hard to do that, to be speaking the truth at all times. But believe it or not, even some of our own Christian friends, our own Catholic friends who listen to EWTN have a lot of criticisms to say. And it's very unfortunate. So please pray for us that we can continue to be that beacon and help people grow in holiness, because that's what we're trying to do. So thanks, Margaret. You're a prayerful warrior, and we love that about you, so thank you.
Okay, and we want to make a quick mention about getting away. Yeah, if people are looking to get away for a couple days, a few days, a great place to go is to the region of EWTN.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if you're looking for a unique setting for a great spiritual renewal, now think about this for a moment. Consider the Shrine of the Most Blessed Sacraments Blessed Sacrament. That's where you can visit the final resting place of Mother Angelica. Jerry and I went there. Absolutely amazing. It was just spiritually rejuvenating. I can't even explain it. I have no words to describe it. But you can also tour the EWTN campus, which is just an hour away. So it's really cool. You get to see it. If you love EWTN, you want to see the campus. It lets you even stay even closer to what's happening. So you can start your Catholic pilgrimage today with EWTN. All you got to do is call this number. Okay, you ready? Got your pen and paper? 205-271-2966. Okay? That's it, and you can just have that great boost in your spirituality.
All right, we're going to go back to your phone calls here about nonverbal communication, body language. John is in Kendallville, Indiana, listening to EWTN Radio on Redeemer Radio. Hi, John. Welcome.
Hi. I'll tell you right now, Margaret's wrong on a couple of points. First of all, it's not our conscience. That's different from our soul. And we wait for our souls, and our souls are in a dormant state. And I'm not saying she's completely wrong or off-center. What I'm saying is we have the ability every single day. We're alive. We take in the Word of God. And when God puts somebody in your path, you have the ability to talk, as well as encourage, promote reading the Bible, and a whole lot of other things that we're not defenseless. And I guess that's what I'm getting from, we're blaming technology. Technology is good. It has a use, or God wouldn't have given us the knowledge for it. It comes handy in emergencies. It comes in handy for, things for senior citizens that, okay, I got to go check on my parents, my grandparents, my wife, my children. So I'm not going to blame it on technology, although it is a part of it. We've abused it. And that's the sad part. How do we counter it? You're doing it every day. You encourage. You invite. The Catholic Church, I just recently heard, and I think that's exactly the way it should be promoted. We're the most inviting church. Our hands are open. The doors are open. That means anything you carry, you come to us. We encourage, we nurture, we heal. And what you do every day with that, after you go to reconciliation or you go through RCIA, well, you're loaded. You're loaded for bear. Go back out in the secular world. First person God puts in your path, I'll guarantee you there's a reason. And you encourage them. And a hand on them. It's sad. This is the part for a male, that if you touch a female and encourage them, even just a hand on the shoulder, boom, you're in trouble. I do it to guys all the time, and I see their heads down, and their spirits are immediately raised up. They're encouraged. But our society, our culture, it's a problem. But we haven't lost the battle, have we? We're here.
Wow. John, that was impactful. I just have to say, I totally, I think I understand where you're coming from, and that is that we have the choices to make those decisions that are good for other souls that we encounter. And so basically, if I'm hearing you correctly, we're choosing to give into this, and we're really kind of going unconscious, if you will, and allowing it to control us when we still have control over it. God gave us that ability to make the choices of right and wrong and what's good for us and what's not good for us. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, we need to kind of really wake up and go out there and make the good choices that are going to help ourselves and help others. Am I hearing you correctly on that?
You are, and even with the bad choices, because nothing returns to God void. Nothing will return to Him void and empty. We have to wake up and distinguish the soul and the spiritual part of us as beings, and that outweighs, in my mind, what's going on out here the older I get. This is passing away, and if you have somebody passing away right now slowly, think about how quickly time has passed. You know, one of the things I've told an individual once, I said, go to a cemetery and sit quietly. Look at all the stones that are out there, because all these people lived lives, had stories, had pains. There's nothing different. So you're here. When you leave here, go do something to help someone. And it's easy as saying, Lord, please put someone in my path today. I need this, or, hey, I've got a great day. I want to pass on this joy. How you doing? One of the things they talked about, and I think it was the caller before Margaret, and he was talking about technology, and I think he brought up the camera first about headsets and things. And one of the things that I want to say to that gentleman is, you know what? Look beyond the technology. Look at the human being, because all you do is smile. And people are taken back. Today, in today's world, you smile at someone, they think, what's that all about?
Mm-hmm.
You say hi to them, wow, what's going on here? What do you want from me? There's almost like a really funky paranoia. But what they don't understand is that it is spiritual love. And going back to Margaret, neither one of those callers were wrong. In fact, I'm building what I'm saying upon what I heard from them. So as she said, I could sit outside at a coffee shop and talk to her about this all day. Well, here's what we do. We leave here and we go disperse. We're doing the same thing the apostles are doing, but we're doing it in modern times with technology. The evil will never win.
Well, John, great points. And on that note, evil will never win. That is what we all need to keep in mind. And we both want to thank you genuinely and sincerely for taking the time and caring enough to call Take Two with Jerry and Debbie, and just love the way you're paying attention, John, because you are, like you said, you're building your thoughts on the thoughts of some of the other callers. So bless you, John. We're going to let you go on that because we're down to our last several minutes here and want to try to get a few other callers in here. We've got another Redeemer Radio listener. It is Joseph listening right there in Fort Wayne. Joseph, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello?
Hi, Joseph. You're on the air.
Oh, I'm sorry. You scratched out there for a minute.
No problem.
Yeah, it's what I really would like to pick up on is that 36%, I think it was, 57 minus plus 7 to 36% in voice, tension, and whatnot. You can see Bill and Obama and stuff, they have the face to tell a lie, you know? And, excuse me, I kind of said that, but, and then other ones, well, one time I caught Rush in a lie. It was a bite that he didn't say the whole thing to. You know, he let a sound bite, which he always didn't like. You know, and I just pick up like you guys. I pick up on your sincerity, especially when you have that type of show that you're very sincere, and I pick up more on voice and faces. I can be lied to by a face. You know, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Joseph, can I thank you? I mean, thank you so very much for saying that. I think you're referring to Jerry and myself about being genuine. We, what you see is what you get. We put it all out there, and we really are coming from our hearts. But, it's interesting, Joseph, we fall under criticism as well. I mean, there's people that are sometimes think, are they really that genuine? Are they really that authentic? And so it's on both sides. It's very unfortunate how people are cautious and skeptical. What I would always say, Joseph, this is just for me. This is how I kind of gauge a person, is what's coming out of their mouth. Is it something are they trying to help me to grow in my faith? Are they helping me to be a better person? Are they helping me to be the best version of myself? And if they are, then I think to myself, then that person really does have a giving heart. If a person's trying to cut me down or to be very critical, overly critical, that person may not have my best interest. Now it's not like it's separate from like kind of a tough love thing. I'm talking about people that just want to just haul those insults all the time. And so that's why, Joseph, we believe that Catholic radio and EWTN is so important, because I can tell you firsthand that everybody that is working in EWTN, they want the best for other souls. They want other souls to go to heaven. You look at our show team, Rich Jesse, our producer, we talk about it all the time. All he wants to do is have others grow in their faith. So I think, Joseph, you make a really good point. We really have to start having those people around us that can give us those encouraging words, and the others, we maybe just have to reject and not let it affect us. I don't know. What do you think, Jerry?
I think it's well put. And Joseph, appreciate your thoughts there in Fort Wayne. Back-to-back calls from our friends in Redeemer Radio. Joseph, have a fantastic week. I hope your Monday is off to a great start. We're going to get over to Laura, if time allows. We've got James and some others. Laura listening to Guadalupe Radio in Fort Worth. Hi, Laura. Welcome to Take Two.
Hi. I was just about you said body language and stuff. Well, I've been married for 41 years, and my husband doesn't talk to me. He ignores me all the time, and I just wanted. How do you when you're trying to talk to somebody and they just ignore you? What do you do? I have a hard time because I try my best, but I don't get anywhere with it.
Well, let me just real quick, and then Debbie, I've not been married. Laura, Debbie is, and I think there's a distinction here, and I think you've already made that distinction. Sometimes I've heard it said that couples who have been married for decades really seldom have to use words to express their love for one another, and they're just so content in one another's company. But I'm getting the sense that you're talking about something not along those lines, Laura, a little bit different. He just simply won't have a dialogue or conversation with you at all. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if I say anything, it's like I'm stupid. So you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I just had it probably has nothing to do with your program, but you said body language and stuff, and I thought...
No, I think it ties right into what we're talking about today.
No, it does, Laura, but here's the thing. You need to be validated, too, and you need to be heard. And so here's the thing. Just pray for your husband that he has, and I'm sure you're doing that, Laura. You've been married for a very long time.
I pray every day. And the problem with this is that he watches EWTN every day on TV. And to me, it's like, well, if you're watching that, well, you should have learned something by now.
Maybe he's so mesmerized by the show hosts that he doesn't hear you talking to him, Laura. Right. No, I'm joking. I'm sorry. That isn't.
Okay. It's okay. I'm just wondering. You said body language, and I'm just wondering when you see somebody who sits there and.
But Laura,
having a conversation.
Laura, real quickly, because we're going to get ready to close the show. This is just from one wife to another, okay? If your husband is ignoring you, this is what I would do, like you're doing. I would pray for his openness, that maybe something on EWTN, and maybe, who knows, the good Lord may put a program right in front of him that could teach him that that's the way he's behaving is really hurting you. But for now, Laura, surround yourself with people that you feel like you can talk to, your girlfriends, your neighbors, family, because you do need that support. So don't, the old saying, if you keep doing what you're doing, and you're expecting the same, you're going to get the same results.
You're going to keep getting what you get, yeah.
Right. You keep going towards him, engaging. He's ignoring you. You keep getting hurt. It's a vicious cycle. So what you got to do. Yeah, what you got to do, Laura, really, in my opinion, is just really surround yourself with family or friends that you can feel that validation, and just enjoy him for his ability to be the great husband that he's been, I think you said, for 41 years. So, and maybe that would be a win-win for both of you for now, because what you're doing is obviously not benefiting you emotionally.
I'd like to suggest something, Laura, that Debbie mentioned earlier in the show. It was an exercise she took part in one time, and that is looking at your husband as if the first time you ever were looking at him, and just recalling that wow moment when you saw that handsome young man, and you said, boy, I'd really like to get to know him, and then he became your husband, and all these years later we can kind of lose some of that familiarity over the years, and so please just maybe look at him with fresh eyes and learn to appreciate him, and those prayers will bear much fruit. Debbie, welcome back.
Absolutely. Thank you. I missed you guys. It was great. And James, we're just dying to hear what you have to say about what we should do about this whole situation. So email us at take2, the number 2, at EWTN.com. Until tomorrow, have a beautiful and blessed day.